Hello, style lovers, and welcome to my channel, Lifestyle and Fashion Tea. And on this channel, I talk about everything from fashion to reaction. Today, we're going to talk about the blinding of Isaac Woodard, how a horrific incident of a racial violence became a powerful catalyst for the civil rights movement. Let's get into it. In 1946, Woodard, a black Army sergeant on his way home to South Carolina after serving in World War II, was pulled from a bus for arguing with the driver. The local chief of police savagely beat him, leaving him unconscious and permanently blind. Isaac Woodard was born on March 18, 1919, in Fairfield, South Carolina. He attended local segregated schools. On October 14, 1942, the 23-year-old Woodard enlisted in the U.S. Army at Fort Jackson in Columbia, South Carolina. He served the Pacific Theater as a laborer battalion and as a longshoreman, and was promoted to sergeant. He earned a battle star for his Asiatic Pacific campaign, medal by unloading ships under enemy fire, and received the Good Conduct Medal, as well as the Service Medal and World War II Victory Medal, awarded to all American participants. He received an honorable discharge. On February 12, 1946, Woodard was on a Greyhound bus traveling from Camp Gordon in Augusta, Georgia, where he had been discharged, en route to rejoin his family in North Carolina, when the bus reached a rest stop just outside of Augusta. Woodard asked the driver if there was time for him to use the restroom. The driver grudgingly acceded to the request. After an argument, Woodard returned to his seat from the rest stop without incident, and the bus departed. The bus stopped in Batesburg. Though Woodard had caused no disruption, nor did he start another argument, the driver contacted local police, who forcibly removed Woodard from the bus. After demanding to see his discharge papers, a number of Batesburg police, including the Chief Shaw, took Woodard to a nearby alleyway, where they beat him repeatedly with nightsticks. They then took Woodard to the town jail and arrested him for disorderly conduct, accusing him of drinking beer in the back of the bus with other solicitors. Newspaper accounts vary on what happens next. Some of the newspapers spelled his name as Woodward. In none of the papers is there any suggestion there was verbal or physical violence on the part of Sergeant Woodard. While things seem to be unclear, it is clear that the next morning, Sergeant Isaac Woodard was blind for life. During the course of the night in jail, Chief Shaw beat and blinded Woodard, who later stated in court that he was beaten for saying yes instead of yes, sir. He also had partial amnesia as a result of his injuries. Woodard further testified that he was punched in the eyes by police several times on the way to the jail, and later repeatedly jabbed in his eyes with a billy club. Newspaper accounts indicate that Woodard's eyes had been gouged out. Historical documents indicate each globe was ruptured irreparably in the socket. The following morning, Batesburg police sent Woodard before the local judge, who found him guilty and fined him $50. The soldier requested medical assistance, but it took 2 more days for a doctor to be sent to him. Not knowing where he was and still experiencing amnesia, Woodard ended up in a hospital in Aiken, receiving substantial medical care. 3 weeks later, after his family had reported him missing, Woodard was discovered in the hospital and he was immediately rushed to an Army hospital in Spartanburg. Though his memory began to recover by that time, doctors found both his eyes damaged beyond repair. The case was soon extensively covered in major national newspapers. The NAACP worked to publicize Woodard's plight, and it also lobbied the state government of South Carolina to address the incident, which it dismissed. On his ABC radio show, Orson Welles Commentaries, actor and filmmaker Orson Welles crusaded for the punishment of Shull and his accomplices. Woodard was the focus of Welles' 4 subsequent broadcasts. The NAACP felt that these broadcasts did more than anything else to prompt the Justice Department to act on the case. Musicians wrote and recorded songs in Isaac Woodard's honor. They also gave him a huge benefit show on Friday, August 16th, 1946. And on September 19th, 1946, 7 months after the incident, the NAACP Executive Secretary Walter Francis White met with President Harry S. Truman in the Oval Office to discuss the case. When Truman heard the story and the context, he exploded. The following day, Truman wrote a letter to Attorney General Tom C. Clark demanding that action be taken. A short investigation followed, and on October 2nd, Shull and several officers were indicted in the U.S. District Court. The case was presided over by Judge Julius Waddies Waring. By all accounts, the trial was a travesty. The U.S. attorney charged with handling the case failed to interview anyone except the bus driver. The defense did not perform any better. When the defense attorney began to shoot racial epithets at Woodard, Waring, a civil rights proponent, stopped him immediately. During the trial, the defense attorney stated to all white jury that if you rule against Shull, then let this South Carolina succeed again. After Woodard gave his account of the events, Shull firmly denied. He claimed Woodard had threatened him with a gun and that Shull had to use his nightclub in self-defense. During this testimony, Shull admitted that he repeatedly struck Woodard in the eyes. On November 5th, after 30 minutes of deliberation, the jury found Shull not guilty on all charges, despite his admission that he had blinded Woodard. This was perceived as a political failure by the Truman administration. In December of 1946, after meeting with White and other leaders of the NAACP, and a month after the jury acquitted Shull, Truman established the President's Committee on Civil Rights by Executive Order 9808, a 15-member interracial group. He asked them to report by the end of 1947. Truman made a strong speech on civil rights on June 29, 1947, to the NAACP, the first American president to speak to their meeting, which was broadcast by radio from where they stood on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. On February 2, 1948, Truman sent the first comprehensive civil rights bill to Congress. Truman also issued Order 9981, banning racial discrimination in the U.S. Armed Forces, and the Executive Order 9980 to integrate federal government. Part of his speech read this: "It is my deep conviction that we have reached a turning point in our country's efforts to guarantee freedom and equality to all of our citizens. Recent events in the United States and abroad have made us realize that it is more important today than ever before to ensure that all Americans enjoy these rights." When I say all Americans, I mean all Americans. Woodard moved north after the trial during the Second Great Migration and lived in the New York City area for the rest of his life. He died at the age of 73 in the Veterans Administration Hospital in the Bronx on September 23rd, 1992. He was buried with military honors at the Calverton National Cemetery, Section 15, Site 2180, in Calverton, New York. Woodard's drunk and disorderly conviction was vacated in 2018. In honor of Black History Month, let's not forget his name, Isaac Woodard, blinded by justice. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Please let me know in the comments if you have heard of Isaac Woodard or this story before, or if there's any other story that you would like for me to talk about during this fabulous month. Rest in peace, Isaac Woodard.